We've got one hell of a video for you today. It's going to be an awesome one. We're going to be doing 6 builds in Dark Souls 3 and then turning around and doing those 6 builds in Elden Ring, matching them and showing off how to do those in Elden Ring as well. It's going to be a fantastic video. It's going to range from showing off the Dragonslayer's Greataxe, of course, in both games. Friede's build, which is incredible. I love her build in Dark Souls 3 as well as Elden Ring. And then we're going to be showing off the Ithryll straight sword as well. 3 others on here also. Of course, how to match that in Elden Ring. It's really going to be a phenomenal video that shows off a lot of things you can do in both games and how you can recreate some of these legendary weapons and builds from Dark Souls 3 and bring them right into Elden Ring. Friede's build, honestly, is incredible. We're going to be using 2 grave sites for that later. We'll show that off with stats, equipment, and of course the ability to use Black Flame as well. Honestly, love her build. It is very, very good too. And then we're going to show off how to recreate, of course, the Ithryll straight sword and everything required for that. It's going to be 3 others that we didn't show in the introduction here. This is going to be a fantastic video in terms of information for both Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring. Let's get started to this one. Honestly, I can't wait. All right, first we're going to start with one of the most amazing fights in Dark Souls 3, and that's against Friede, and we're going to be doing a Sellsword Twinblade build for Dark Souls 3 first, and then recreating that in Elden Ring as well. Honestly, this one came out fantastic all around. The Sellsword Twinblades in Dark Souls 3 are one of the best weapons in the game. The incredible part about these weapons, too, is that you can actually start with them. There's a starting class that has them, so you could literally start from the very beginning of the game with probably a top 5 weapon, which is incredible. If you put these on a sharp gem, which is essentially your keen affinity from Elden Ring, you could run an awesome and powerful dexterity build that does a ton of physical damage. Add in something like Pontiff's Right Eye for successive attack damage, and you'll be shredding most of the bosses in the game. Add the buff, the Power Within. It's very similar to the Bloodsucking Cracks here in Elden Ring. It's going to give you 20% generic damage around there. It's going to drain your HP. It's going to be shorter than the Bloodsucking Cracks here, but when you use it, the amount of damage you get in Dark Souls 3, because the boss's HP they're very different from Elden Ring, where pretty much all the bosses have an insane amount of HP. It's just incredible, especially the DLC ones. So you're going to find that 20% buff, in combination with having the right talismans and setup, can turn the Sellsword Twinblades into what everyone refers to them as, the Sellsword Windblades, because honestly, they're phenomenal. By the way, I have an early game guide for this one as well. I'll leave that in the description if you're new to Dark Souls 3, or if you want to start a character with the Sellsword Twinblades and get powerful early, that is in the description below. Friede is such a phenomenal fight. I really appreciate this fight. She took me around 10 to 15 tries, somewhere in there. Took a little bit to try to get used to her moveset and remember that when she does this move, you can backstab her. But yeah, overall, she's an incredible boss fight. And if you've never experienced this boss fight before, I mean, Dark Souls 3, the DLC is worth it alone. It's incredible. The Ring City is honestly amazing. It's one of the best DLCs of like any game. It's honestly just so good. And the Ashes of Arendelle DLC, the one we're doing right here, is also incredible. I do like the Ring City a little bit better than this one specifically, but yeah, they're both really good. And of course, Friede is an amazing fight. This is a phenomenal one in terms of damage, of course, with the Sellsword Twinblades. Definitely going to be one of the better builds you can bring into this fight if you do happen to take her on. If you ever struggle with her, the main thing about her really is just interrupting her attacks because she has low poise. And of course, getting backstabs when you can. But overall, her whole style, and I wanted to show this one first because we'll be recreating her character later in this video. She does have, and we're going to have that later too, a lack of poise to the point where you can beat her up a little bit. It's unfortunate sometimes. I think her AI tries to get her away from corners, because if you're lucky enough to get her in a corner, especially in phase 1, you can absolutely shred her with the Sellsword Twinblades. I mean, to the point where her HP just disappears. She's very much a glass cannon. In contrast to Midir and Gale, who are much more difficult, in my opinion, because they have much more bloated health bars. For me, she's always been kind of difficult in the sense that she dishes out a ton of damage, but between her poise and the fact that she doesn't have that high of HP, even though it's a 3-phase boss fight, makes her relatively reasonable. But she's a staple for From Software games. A lot of people struggle with her, and she's also one of the coolest characters that From Software has ever introduced. Of course, the whole Frost Scythe thing and everything. We're going to be recreating that, and honestly, I can't wait to do that. But right now, we got to recreate the Sellsword Twinblades first. So let's jump into the equipment for this one, and then we're going to go to Elden Ring. We have the Sharp Sellsword Twinblades plus 10. I have, of course, the Pyromancy for the buff. You can check out the armor set. Kind of went random ones here. Ring of Favor plus 3, Pontiff's Right Eye, Florentine Ring plus 3, Ring of Steel Protection plus 3. And of course, with all of these, the stats are going to show up on the right side. Hope you guys enjoy this. It's going to be great. All right, let's recreate the Sellsword Twinblades in Elden Ring. For this, I chose 2 Bandit Curved Swords in keen affinity. No status effects or anything. Of course, taking advantage of the awesome dexterity scaling we'll get. The moveset is very similar. It's basically the same moveset. And while you didn't see it much in the Friede fight because it's kind of hard to pull off, the Astravor is essentially spinning spinning slash. I get those mixed up all the time. Spinning slash, which does a lot of poise damage. We're going to use that here. And this is going to recreate the Sellsword Twinblades to basically the exact damage and style that you would want to get out of an Elden Ring type build based on a Dark Souls 3 build. So it really is incredible in terms of how much damage we can get. Of course, we're going to buff up the talismans and add some buffs and tiers and things you can do in Elden Ring that you can't do in Dark Souls 3. But overall, this one came out really well. Recreating these gives you a lot of physical damage and a lot of successive attack power. We have 2 Bandit Curved Swords in keen affinity, plus 25 with spinning slash. We have 52 poise here. Any seal for buffs, we're using Golden Bow, Flame Rip Strength, Blessing Spoon, Shard of Alexander, Melissa's Prosthesis, Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, 2-headed Turtle Talisman, Thorny Tear, Bloodsucking Crack Tear, and as with all of these, the stats are on the right. Next up here, of course, we're going to show off the Dragonslayer Greataxe, one of my favorite weapons in Dark Souls 3 because the slam down on the skill is incredible. You get a ton of damage out of this. It really does massive damage when you slam this weapon down. Has one of the highest ARs in all of Dark Souls 3. And of course, it scales with both strength and faith, which, as you guys know from my Elden Ring playthroughs, is one of my favorite styles. This is a really cool one, and of course we're going to be recreating this for Elden Ring as well. And this one's really a staple for Dark Souls 3. It's very, very powerful, and if you're able to get your hands on this weapon, it's very, very late game too, but even for New Game Plus cycles, you'll find that using the skill, if you're able to get enough FP to use the skill a decent amount, is going to do massive damage and even massive area of effect damage as well. Of course, in Elden Ring, the scaling's a little bit different because lightning on weapons is going to scale with dexterity, and back in Dark Souls 3, it scaled with faith. There's a little bit of a difference there in terms of weapons. I don't know why they took that turn for Elden Ring to make weapons scale with dexterity in terms of lightning and whatnot. It doesn't really matter in the end. We're still going to be able to recreate the build very, very well. But at the same time, it is a different style in terms of stats for this one. Unlike the last one, the Sellsword Twinblades, which all around, of course, is a sharp gem, and then going keen affinity, basically the same thing. So we're going to jump into equipment for this one, for the Dark Souls 3 build, and then we're going to recreate this in Elden Ring as well. Honestly, I can't wait. Let's jump into equipment. We have the Dragonslayer Greataxe, plus 5. Of course, we have that for buffs. You can check out the armor set. I mixed it up for all of these. We have the Ring of Favor, plus 3. We have the Lightning Clutch Ring, of course. Chloranthy Ring, plus 3. Ring of Steel Protection, plus 3. And as with all of these, stats are on the right. If you're playing Dark Souls 3, by the way, make sure you have Embers if you can get them. We'll be recreating this in Elden Ring. The Dragonslayer Greataxe is best used with the Executioner's Greataxe. Of course, going for lightning affinity, using lightning slash, and making sure you have the strength requirements for the weapon, because of course this weapon does require around 34 strength or so. You can two-hand at a lesser amount, but I went for the 34 strength. So for this, we have the Executioner's Lightning Greataxe, plus 25 lightning slash, any seal for buffs, 60 poise. It's a cool looking armor set for this one. Shard of Alexander, Lightning Scorpion Charm, two-handed sword talisman for regular attacks, Urchi's favorite, plus 2, Lightning Tear, Bloodsucking Crack Tear. I'm using Sleeping Pots there, Golden Bow, Flame Rip Strength, Blessing Spoon, and of course, the stats are on the right. Next up, we have the Pyromancer. The Pyromancer is a staple in Dark Souls 3. I mean, incredible. Great Chaos Fire Orb is ridiculously potent. It's so powerful, honestly, that we basically, this is on New Game Plus, phase transition Pontiff without basically him even getting close to me. He was just moving slowly towards me and took a ton of damage. If you ever want to run an easy build, Pyromancy is probably the way to go in Dark Souls 3, and of course we're going to be recreating something very similar for Elden Ring as well, which also will be very powerful. In terms of this though, Great Chaos Fire Orb is my favorite amongst the Pyromancy stuff that you can get in Dark Souls 3. It does an incredible amount of damage, and if they stand in it, they'll take more damage as well. It leaves a little bit of a pool of lava or fire or whatever at the bottom, and it's fantastic for that. Of course, overall, you do have to be a little bit more careful than I am at the end of this fight, but it's not going to matter. We're going to be able to take him down because the fire just does so much damage. He was standing in it there as he tried to bring out his clone, but of course couldn't in time, so we're able to take him down with Great Chaos Fire Orb, in combination with that and the power within. let's jump into equipment and stats for this one. For this one, we have the Pyromancer Flame, preferably +10. We have, check out this armor set. I think it's the Wolf Knight set in its entirety for this one. We have the Ring of Steel Protection +3. Of course, we have the Fire Clutch Ring. We're going to be using the Great Swamp Ring, as well as the Witch's Ring. And then, of course, with all of these, the stats are going to be on the right. Let's recreate this in Elden Ring. And of course, for a powerful Pyromancy build, I went with Giant's Flame Take Thee for this one, for the Giant Fireball. There's not a ton you can do to leave a pool of lava on the ground that's going to do that level of damage in Dark Souls 3. So I went with Giant's Flame Take Thee for the massive fireballs that we're hurling. And it does fit the theme, and it's basically the same thing overall. Of course, for this, we're using 2 giant seals as well. This is also chargeable. Elden Ring's a little bit different that way, so you can charge it up for more damage. I hate the camera angle in this boss fight. I don't know if I'm the only one, but for some reason, when you target lock on him, it gets a little shaky, but he takes that final hit for 7,400 damage. Of course, this is an incredibly potent one for Elden Ring and for Dark Souls 3. Pyromancy is absolutely a staple. Highly recommend if you want to have a fun time to try these. We have 2 giant seals. Main hand one needs to be +25. We have 69 poise for this one. Godfrey Icon, Fire Scorpion Charm. We have the Phlox Canvas Talisman, Faithful Canvas Talisman, Flame Tear, Bloodsucking Correct Tear, Golden Vow, Flame of Strength, Bless's Boon, Giant's Flame Take Thee, and the Giant Catch Flame. Next up here, we're going to be recreating Vordt's Great Hammer. Vordt's Great Hammer is a phenomenal weapon in Dark Souls 3 that does a ton of frost build-up, and it really does look pretty much exactly like the Great Mace, because it is a great mace, I guess, from Elden Ring, and we will be recreating this as well. And honestly, can't wait for this one because this one does a ton of bonk damage. In both games, it builds up frost very well, and on top of that, can beat up low poise enemies, break bosses, and does a ton of physical damage with excellent strength scaling. This is one I feel like you're going to love in both games. If you're a fan of Dark Souls 3 and you're a fan of Elden Ring, pick up Vordt's Hammer, and of course, when we recreate this with the Great Mace, I think you're going to think it's an excellent build that does a fairly good amount of damage. It can make some tough bosses a lot easier. So we're going to take on Wolner. This isn't the best fight for this because he is probably frost immune. Pretty much have to hit his bracelets. After we get through this fight, of course, we'll be recreating this in Elden Ring. It does do a ton of damage, though, and I wanted to show this fight off because it's able to break his bracelets very quickly. Much better than many of the other weapons in the game. Usually takes 3 or 4 hits to break them, which is fairly fantastic for a weapon in this game. Honestly, I really do love Vordt's Hammer. It's one of those weapons you could take in Dark Souls 3 from the beginning to the end game and absolutely crush it, which is awesome. I want to mention, by the way, if you want to see more videos like this one, more that include other Souls games within the From Software, of course, you know, franchise and all that, the Souls games, and if you want to see me mix it up with videos like this, definitely comment below and let me know. I'm really curious as to your thoughts on this specific style of video. This was something different that I wanted to try. I was playing a lot of Dark Souls 3, just ended up thinking of this, and I was like, what if I take some of my favorite builds and whatnot, and builds that people love, show them off in Dark Souls 3, and then compare them in Elden Ring. And I really love the way this one came out, and honestly, this one was an absolute blast to do. I enjoyed it because mixing in 2 of my favorite games, honestly, is never going to be a bad thing, and Dark Souls 3 really is a phenomenal game. Elden Ring, of course, for me, is the greatest of all time. We're going to be finishing up this fight in a second, and then we're going to be going over equipment, and then we'll be showing off the Elden Ring version of this. And honestly, it's going to be so good in terms of damage and frost buildup and all that. This one you could recreate pretty much exactly, which I love too. Now, the skill on this, I didn't use it much here, but it is Endure, so we're going to have to recreate that with Endure. And of course, we're going to have to go for Cold Affinity when we build around this as well, because it has frost buildup. It does, though, mainly, I think it actually just does physical damage in Dark Souls 3. It's a little bit different in the world of Elden Ring in terms of how that works. I thought about Chilling Mist, but the reality is it actually has Endure on it, so that would probably be the best way to go in terms of recreating this. Let's jump into equipment and stats for this, and then the Elden Ring version, which I think you're going to love. For equipment, we have Vordt's Great Hammer +5. We basically have the Pyromancy Flame just to use the power within and whatnot. You can check out the armor set here. It was completely random for this one. We have the Ring of Favor +3. We have the Farron Ring. We have the Chloranthy Ring +3. I do normally use the Endure more often. Ring of Steel Protection +3, just don't need it for that fight. And then, of course, make sure you have Embers when you can, and stats are on the right. Right, now let's recreate this for Elden Ring. Can't wait to jump into this one because we're using the Great Mace, which is a fantastic weapon with excellent strength scaling. Of course, we use Endure to mimic the skill. That's going to allow us to have some defense. And then we're mainly going to be going for charged attacks, light attacks, all that stuff. I tried to really limit the amount of jump attacks. I believe, of course, her moon spell she uses later, I have to use jumps for that. But I tried to limit jumps in all these to kind of mimic the style of Dark Souls 3 as well, of course, because there really isn't jumping attacks and whatnot. But of course, for some moves, you do have to jump. Her moon spell in phase 2 is kind of jump through it is the easiest way. I'm sure you can roll through it, but jumping through it is much easier. Back to this, the Great Mace is phenomenal in cold affinity. Using it with Endure gives you a ton of defense to withstand attacks. And of course, for the Elden Ring footage, we're on Journey 4, New Game Plus 3 for all these clips. For Dark Souls 3, I did them on New Game Plus around like level 120 or so. I think the meta, by the way, is 125, so I'll work up to that if I do a part 2. If you guys want to see another one of these videos, I'll probably be 125 for the next one in Dark Souls 3. And there's the jumps, of course, I mentioned. And then continue to just hit her, of course, because we're going to be mainly using charged hits and whatnot. In Dark Souls 3, you're going to be doing a lot of light and charged hits. It does do good poise damage. Poise is just different the way it works in Dark Souls 3. Still, got a frost proc at the end there, by the way. And she's, I think, decently resistant to it, too, so that's pretty cool. I got rid of that, I had that one initially for one of the builds, and then I switched that because it wasn't healing me when I was getting critical hits. I don't know what that applies to, but I ended up switching that one out. All right, let's jump into equipment and talisman stats, all that stuff. Cold Great Mace, plus 25 preferably with Endure. Any seal for buffs, 64 poise. Blade of Mercy Talisman. We have the two-handed sword talisman, axe talisman, two-headed turtle talisman, spike criteria, blood-sucking criteria, golden vow, flame whip strength, and blessings boon. Next up here, we're going to be using the Ithryll Straight Sword. Very popular weapon in Dark Souls 3. That is pretty much a staple for the Straight Swords. Honestly, I think people love this one because it has frost buildup. This demon might be immune to frost. I don't remember if he is or not. I know the fire ones are, but he's not a fire demon, so I'm not sure. Anyways, this one's really amazing in Dark Souls 3. Essentially, it's going to be using basically square off. It's essentially the same thing. And it's going to do a lot of posture damage in Dark Souls 3. Give you a decent amount of damage in general, and of course, for the most part, you're going to get frost buildup as well. And the Straight Sword moveset is honestly phenomenal in Dark Souls 3. Actually, Straight Swords are pretty much one of the best class, if not the best class, in Dark Souls 3. It's a world of difference from this to Elden Ring in terms of Straight Swords, but the Ithryll Straight Sword really stands out because of the fact that it has frost buildup and good strength scaling as well. If you do decide to two-hand it, it gets a C in strength and I believe a D in dexterity. A little bit quality, but it leans strength. For equipment, we have Ithryll Straight Sword plus 5, Pyromancer Flame once again for the power within. Armor set's completely random here, as it was, I think, for all of these for the most part. Ring of Favor plus 3. We have Aldrich's Ruby, which is going to be the critical hit one. Chlorant's Ring plus 3. Ring of Steel Protection plus 3. And then, of course, make sure you have Embers if you can, and stats are on the right. This is a really cool one to try out. I really recommend trying out the Straight Sword class in Dark Souls 3 if you're struggling. And now we're going to be recreating it in Elden Ring. And for this to recreate it, I chose to use the longsword, which has very similar scaling. Very, very similar. Of course, because it's in cold affinity, it's going to have a little bit of intelligence scaling. But I believe it also gets a C in strength and a D in dexterity. So that's kind of perfect. And of course, it's going to give you the frost build up. And we're using square off to mimic the skill perfectly, which I love, by the way. It's an incredible Ash of War in Elden Ring that can break bosses very easily. We're able to recreate it this way and do a fairly good amount of damage as well. This is going to be one that's, of course, good for both games because of the amount of frost buildup and posture damage she'll be doing. And, of course, we get a break there, which is very common with Square Off. Even on Journey 4, later journeys, even up to New Game Plus 7, you can break bosses fairly easily with Square Off. It does 40 poise damage per use of the Ash of War, which is phenomenal. And, of course, it does do the different form of poise breaking as well in Dark Souls 3. Really loved creating this one because the Ithryll Straight Sword is one of, like, the best weapons in the game, at least in my opinion. So the Straight Sword class is so good to begin with, and then of course it has the frost on it as well. So for this, we're going to be finishing off the Magma Worm here in a second. I believe we actually took him out there. We traded, but he's down. We're going to go over equipment and stats, and then we'll be jumping into the final build on here, which will be recreating Sister Friede. All right, so Cold Longsword plus 25 with Square Off, any seal for buffs. We have 53 poise. We have the Shard of Alexander. We have Rolana's cameo, Blade of Mercy Talisman, Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman, Greenburst Crystal Tier, Bloodsucking Crack Tier, Golden Vow, Flame of Strength, Blessings Boon. As with all of these, the stats are on the right. Lastly, we have Sister Friede. This is a really cool one, honestly. I love this one because of the fact that we're able to get a ton of Frost build up, and the Scythe moveset and class in general in both Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring is incredibly fun. It's a blast to use, and of course her skills are going to allow you to get Frost build up. It has two parts. I prefer the one that leaves the Frost trail on the ground. The other one, because it doesn't give you a lot of hyper armor, is very difficult to use, but it can shred certain enemies and bosses because it builds up on successive hits. Of course, I added Black Flame as well. I chose to use the Black Serpent type Black Flame for Dark Souls 3. There might be better ones, but I like that one. I thought it was cool, so I added it to her build, and she uses a lot of different Black Flame style stuff anyway, and this can mimic her build overall very, very accurately in Dark Souls 3, and can also allow you to have a lot of fun as well. And then recreating this in Elden Ring is going to be an absolute blast because of the fact that, honestly, it's my favorite build on this entire list. That's why I saved it for last. The Elden Ring version of this turned out really well. Probably the best one of these I've done. I did a build for her a while back, but it wasn't quite as good as the one I have here for Elden Ring. It's really going to be phenomenal. By the way, I want to mention, too, if you haven't ever played Dark Souls 3, it is well worth going back and playing Dark Souls 3. You could, of course, use some of these builds as well, which probably will help you. They're all very good builds. Most of them are really staples within both the Dark Souls 3 community and the builds I'm making here in terms of the weapons being very good. I would say Friede would be one of the few exceptions on here. Friede's Great Scythe, +5 preferably. The Pyromancer Flame for the power within. We, of course, have her dress on. And then Pontiff's Red Eye, Ring of Favor, +3. And we have Chlorantine Ring, +3. Ring of Steel Protection, +3. And of course, with all of these, the stats are on the right. Her stats are kind of all over the place because it scales with 3 different things, but the main focus is dexterity first and then secondary intelligence. All right, let's recreate Sister Friede from Dark Souls 3 and put her into Elden Ring. This is going to be great. We're using the Snow Witch set in combination with the Confessor Hood. And we have 2 grave sites, both in Cold Affinity, one with Chilling Mist, and the other one has Hoarfrost Stomp. Now, I did decide to add Black Flame. I added the Godfrey icon. You could also use the Divine Beast Stomp from the DLC because I think that one's chargeable, so you get a little bit of an extra bonus from having the Godfrey icon there. But of course, we'll be able to use Black Flame too, and her build translates in Elden Ring to a Strength and Faith build, which of course, again, is my favorite type of build and everything in Elden Ring. So it's really fantastic that you can run these in Cold Affinity, get a ton of successive attacks, Frost build up, and run Black Flame as well. So the main concept here, in terms of style of play, what I like to do, other than use Hoarfrost Stomp, obviously, because you can kind of spam that, not as much as you could when Elden Ring launched, but you can use that a lot. Overall, though, I like the moveset with the dual grave sites. I think it's perfect for this, and just kind of combining them together to use them as much as you can. Build up Frost, get a little posture damage if you can, and then you could always switch to Black Flame as well to get some damage with that too, because we have around 50 faith in the Godslayer Seal. Of course, Black Flame has the advantage too if you're at lower scaling, where it always gets that percentage of the boss's HP. So it really is actually one of the best incantations you can use at lower levels if you're splitting stats. Black Flame really is excellent all around. It really has a highlight at the lower levels, especially when you're splitting stats, because that percentage of the boss's HP. By the way, if I sound different in this video, or a little lower energy, a cold currently, randomly picked up a cold or something, it's just been fantastic. I told you guys a while back I was dealing with some health issues. After that, I ended up pulling my back. That got better. Now I have a cold, so yeah, it just kind of keeps going. But we have 2 cold grave sites, speaking of colds, +25 preferably, one with Chilling Mist, one with Hoarfrost Stomp. We have the Godslayer Seal, of course, Snow Witch set, as well as the Confessor Hood. And I think we had the Maiden Gloves on. Shard of Alexander, Shatter and Soul Talisman, Blisson's Prosthesis, Godfrey Icon. We have the Thorny Tier, Bloodsucking Crack Tier, Golden Vow, Flame Rip Strength, Blessing Spoon, Black Flame, Scouring Black Flame Ritual. All that stuff's really cool here. And thanks for watching this one. Thanks for tuning in to a very unique video that I feel like I did where I don't know if like people were really asking for this specifically, but it was just something I thought of, and hopefully you guys like it. If you like Dark Souls 3 and you like Elden Ring, you should like it. Even if you just like Elden Ring, this is still pretty cool because it gives you different builds to try. All right, so I want to thank members that are on the screen. Of course, if you become a member, your name will be on the screen. You guys are awesome. Be sure to sub, by the way, if you're not subbed yet and you're enjoying Elden Ring and Dark Souls 3 content. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.